Daily Wrestling Review with your hosts, Hal,
Jack,
and
Chaz.
Hello everyone and welcome to the WrestleMania 36 reaction show. This is where we talk about our thoughts on, well, I usually say the one event, but it's more...
Two events? Yeah. It was like two separate nights, the way it unfolded.
Too big for just one night.
I got to admit, I enjoyed it. For the most part.
It is probably the best WrestleMania since at least 30.
Yeah. I think what helps is the fact that it was a unique WrestleMania in so many different aspects. I mean, not only did you have it over two nights, not only did you have it in the empty arena, but I think that sort of helped with the performance of the wrestlers. You got to see them, like, you criticize some of the acting and some of the parts they do.
Yeah.
And you know that they draw off the crowd.
Yeah.
So just to see them in that aspect without no crowd showed how much talent a lot of the superstars have.
I think that's fair.
I mean, you take it for granted when there's a crowd.
Yeah.
But to be able to draw off of energy that ain't there from the crowd and still make it seem like there is a crowd there. And there was a lot of, especially, I know we'll get to it, but especially the Edge Randy Orton match. There was a lot of emotion, a lot of, you sort of took away from the fact that this was actually a wrestling match.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the event itself, I do want to talk about something that was revealed during the night. Now, kind of, as with everything's sort of subject to change at the moment for anything.
Yep.
But they did advertise for Money in the Bank. So it seems like, at least as far as their plans are concerned, that the rumours of them
going on hiatus
until SummerSlam seem to not be true. Now, whether or not that continues to be the case will remain to be seen as we continue on. But it means we've still got stuff to cover. The show must go on, as they say. But let's get into WrestleMania 36 itself, which started with Night 1's pre-show match between Drew Gulak and Cesaro. I thought this was a pretty decent sort of technical match. Very, very much mat wrestling, that sort of thing. They're very much two people that are more wrestlers about the art of wrestling itself rather than
the grapplers.
rather than putting on a performance per se.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Drew Gulak and Cesaro are probably, well, don't know too much about Drew Gulak, but from what I have seen, and I know a lot about Cesaro, that they're technically gifted in the grappling sort of wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, Cesaro, for me, should have got a push long before he is where he is now. Yeah, I thought Cesaro was up there with the likes of Drew McIntyre, Sheamus when they first came into the business. I held a lot of high hopes for Cesaro, but it never really worked out for him apart from the United States title run and the amazing tag team run he had with Sheamus.
The bar, yeah.
But as a singles competitor, he hasn't really been given the chance to shine. But I think the pre-show was a pretty decent match. I wouldn't say it was a fantastic match, but it was good to watch from a pre-show scale.
I do want to say, as far as Cesaro is concerned, I think some people might say, well, maybe he's not going to push because maybe he's not particularly charismatic, but in the bar, he was quite entertaining with Sheamus.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, it is a shame that he never really got that push. And he still doesn't seem to really be getting it. He's still pretty much in the field of being some number 2 or a tag team guy. He ended up winning the match with an uppercut and a a very interesting airplane spin.
Yeah.
Hands free.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cesaro won that match. But the main show itself, as Night 2 also did this, started with Stephanie just welcoming people to the show and, stay safe, all of the good stuff, all the stuff we expect.
All the stuff we like to hear at this point.
Yeah. Interestingly, for obvious reasons, they didn't have a new performance of America the Beautiful. Instead,
it was a collaboration of
pretty
like
much
all
everyone that's been done.
I thought that was a really good touch.
Yeah, it was a good way of getting around the fact that obviously it's safer than getting someone in to sing America the Beautiful. And to an empty arena as well, which is just strange.
Yeah.
I imagine. Then we start with a running theme throughout both nights that I wasn't really into. With Gronkowski and Mojo Rawley starting the show.
Yeah.
So we've seen him a few times on TV now. We've seen him in person a few times now.
See, the thing is, I think with that type of thing, like I talk about the impact of the crowd and how certain people shined under it, but you can sort of see that the type of performances that Gronkowski and Mojo Rawley were putting in seemed to really need the crowd there for the reactions on that, because it just seemed a bit cheesy.
I found the Gronk a little grating, I'll be honest. But let's move away from that. Let's get into something good. And the first something good, of which there were many throughout these two nights, was Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors. This was an interestingly paced opening to this match, where they were more interested in taunting than actually wrestling. And there was a lot of back and forth between both teams. Kind of a slow start, but once the two teams got going, they were really good. I think, in particular, Nikki Cross got to impress in this one.
Yeah, for me, I said it off mic a few times. For me, Nikki Cross wrestled probably, and Michael Cole even said it during commentary, but she probably wrestled her best wrestling match at WrestleMania.
I think this is definitely it's one of the few, I think, but it's definitely the best I've seen of her since coming up to the main roster.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Now, the match ended with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross winning the tag team titles, which is great for two reasons. One, because I think both women deserve some sort of championship. But also, I'm going to hope that with Asuka and Kairi Sane no longer being champions, we can slowly
focus them on being singles competitors.
They are much better as singles competitors.
I found that at first I was into it. I thought, okay, this is great, but after a while they seem to go stale. The highlight of their tag team run didn't really come down to the fact that they were champions defending the titles, because we rarely saw that. It was more comedic.
It was their personalities which work better alone, I think.
Yeah.
And in fact, they, I think, would be much better as rivals than as partners. I think a feud between the two could be really interesting. And I think they did have some matches in NXT. But don't quote me on that. It was a good start. It was a good start to the night. Next, we had King Corbin versus Elias. Now, this starts something that I found interesting, and I think this was one of the first times where they tried to use the empty arena, which is Corbin went full arrogant heel throughout this match, constantly berating Cole and JBL on commentary, and it was really good because you don't. For obvious reasons, because as people have been to a live show, when you're there, you can't hear the commentators. So naturally, even though performers are near them, although less so on Raw, because now it's on the stage again, you could probably hear them if you're close to them, but usually the rest will be focused on their match. Here, there is nothing but the noise of the commentators. So hearing Corbin backchat the commentators is a really nice touch when you would expect them to just ignore that detail. So I like that. And I thought this was a good match. I like seeing Elias show some aggression. I do still think Elias makes a better heel than a face. But this feud has been decent. Even if Corbin still...
He can't catch a break.
He can't catch a break.
I mean, unless I'm missing something here where Corbin actually likes getting other people over more than actually getting over himself, then that's fair play on him. But I just feel like Corbin's one of those guys that could do well with a good push. I'm not talking world titles.
No.
But come on.
Even a secondary title, like the
Intercontinental title, United States title. I mean, has he even won the 24/7 title at this point?
I don't know if he has.
You know, it's one of those ones with Corbin. And I really think he's talented. I just don't think he's being utilised in WWE. I feel like he's still getting punished for something he did all those years ago.
I think it's worth noting that people, from what I've seen, there's a lot of sentiment about either him not being good or him once being good. So I would put it more down to, if he gets a chance, he might be good. And I do think, as a shitty, arrogant heel that you want to punch, he's good at making you upset.
Yeah, of course.
But he just isn't allowed to really show his in-ring capabilities, which I think have to be better than we see here. You've certainly given that indication plenty of times.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, he had that he had a good run in NXT, which led him to the push that got him to the main roster. He ended up winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, Money in the Bank, all within that year. And
did he lose the Money in the Bank?
That was the start of his downfall. He cashed in, and
is he only the second person to happen to? Because I think that happened to Damien Sandow as well.
It happened to Damien Sandow. It happened to Baron Corbin. John Cena also had a failed cash in,
okay.
But at that point, John Cena. Yeah. But yeah, we're coming on the point of people that sort of lost it through backstage discretions, if you will. Sandow and Corbin are the ones that stand out.
Next, we have a match that it's difficult for me to talk about this one because I think I was the one being the most defensive for this one because I had a lot of faith in Shayna Baszler as a wrestler, and I do think she's good. She has a good presence, and I think she's one of the cage fighters that have adapted well to wrestling. The issue is the way they seem to want to portray dominant heels in the company a lot of the time mean they're really boring to watch. And it's the same as with the Elimination Chamber where she's just Brock Lesnaring. They seem to have this thing about the monster heels at the moment being these people where either they lose quickly, they lose through some sudden means, or they just throw people around until they pin them and the match is usually like 5 minutes long. In this match, Shayna got made to look like an idiot because as the submission specialist, she should not be having the Kirifuda clutch reversed into a roll-up.
No.
It shouldn't be happening. Whoever booked this match fucked up. And this is Shayna's entire run on the main roster as far as being an in-ring performer has been terrible, and it's
thus far
a shame because I think there's a lot of potential there. But ultimately, it wasn't a very long match, it wasn't a very entertaining match, and the ending was frustrating.
I think what brings it out a lot is you have a lot of faith in Shayna Baszler because of how well she done in NXT. She brought up to the main roster. She completely dominated the Elimination Chamber, albeit we'd have liked to have seen more technical. But the fact that she dominated it, we actually sat and thought that Becky
expect
Shayna
her
Baszler
to.
would be the match to watch. And all the build-up, we've had weeks of Raw of Becky and Shayna
Yeah.
dominating the headlines, if you will.
Absolutely.
And the match was just...
Flat.
It was. It was so flat. It was
All
so
Shayna
underwhelming.
did was repeat the spot she did on the Elimination Chamber.
Pretty much.
And then it rolled up at the end from her own finisher as a submission specialist.
I mean, we had some cool moments where Shayna sort of picks up Becky and smashes her into the announce table like she did on the Raw.
Yeah.
Little cool spots like that, but when there's been so much hype and so much build-up, particularly for one match, and this one stands out over many of the others because with everything that's going on, I feel like Becky and Shayna's build-up has been bigger than pretty much every other match on WrestleMania's card.
By far.
And it was just so underwhelming. The
They're
match
one
in
of the
general.
few since the whole epidemic started, the pandemic started, where they've still had in-ring confrontations
Yeah.
together. And I'm not even saying that I'm upset that Shayna lost, because I would have been fine with that. Even with the No Chamber having to be sacrificed for it, I would have been fine if she lost. If they'd had a big, close match.
Yeah.
That
But
was
I just
really
feel
exciting.
I feel like Becky hardly had any offense in the match.
No.
She had little to no offense. Shayna Baszler dominated. What was it? The match was like between 7 and 10 minutes long.
Something like that.
You know, I think we had about 6 minutes of Shayna Baszler dominance with a little bit of Becky Lynch thrown in there, and Becky ultimately gets the win. Don't get me wrong. I said I feel Becky would win the match, but to win it like that and to win it under those circumstances, I feel like WWE ruined a big moment for those two superstars. Look, we know what Becky's about. We know what Shayna's about. Put them together. That match could have been easily one, if not the match of the night. It was main event worthy on paper.
As it was, it might be the most unhappy I was with a match on the card.
To be honest with you, it definitely, for me, I mean, there were certain matches I expected to be bad.
That's what I mean, yeah.
This is one that I didn't, and that for me is why this one is ranked so low. I put this as the worst match on the card.
And that's not because it is the worst match, because it's the worst match you expected a lot from.
I mean, do you know what? Elias and King Corbin, I expected that to be a bit of a dull match, but this one outshined Becky Shayna Baszler for me.
Yeah.
You know, and that shouldn't have been the case.
No.
Because there was no build-up to Elias and Corbin, really. A couple of backstage confrontations, the whole...
An attempted murder.
Yeah. you know. But this one was sort of like, ever since the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how long we're going back to here. The build-up was ever since the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
You know, so with that... I mean, there's promising parts about it. I mean, we had the interviews so long after where Becky Lynch was talking about if Shayna wants to come at her again, she's ready, and Shayna sort of give that inkling. So you feel like this rivalry isn't over, but why would you make a better match between them two later down the line when you've got the biggest stage of them
when
all?
they're at WrestleMania now.
Exactly, and the big build-up you give to it.
Yeah.
I feel like WWE missed a trick there as well.
Yeah. And so next on the card was Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn. For the most part, I think this was a fine match. Sami Zayn's current coward heel gimmick is entertaining as a personality thing. I find the constant running away to be slightly annoying.
Yeah.
But for the most part, this match was fine. I think the reason I'm a little flat on it is because these two are capable of a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, I say it a lot. I always find it silly when you give people gimmicks like... I understand why you give people gimmicks like this, but I find it hard to take it seriously when you got Sami Zayn running away from Daniel Bryan, but flash back like what 2 years ago, he was toe to toe with Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
You know, all right, he's running away from him now in current storylines, but 2 years ago, he was challenging Braun Strowman to I can last 10 minutes in the ring with you.
It's okay if it's the person's first or only gimmick, but when they've already established gimmicks prior, it is odd. And the thing with it as well is it's a very old school gimmick as well, a very tired one, something we've seen for
Millions
decades,
of times.
all over the place. But they had a fine match. Sami Zayn retained in the end with a pretty nice hell of a kick. It was fine. It was inoffensive.
I mean, wasn't distractions from Cesaro helping in that as well?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, Brian pretty much ran into hell of a kick from
a distraction from
outside
Cesaro.
interference,
Yeah. So we'll see where they go with it from there. I hope they develop the Sami Zayn heel run a little bit better. But the match itself was okay for what it was, considering we all know that it wasn't originally a match planned. So we'll give it that.
Although events that transpire later on in this same night make those plans for the future a bit strange. So we'll see where that goes. They might have just completely dropped what they were doing originally. Next on the next match was the triple threat singles ladder match for the tag team titles. Because as reports said, The Miz was apparently either sick or otherwise incapacitated, could not make the night. So he ended up turning the triple threat tag match into a triple threat singles match for the tag titles, with Kofi Kingston representing the New Day, Jimmy Uso representing him and his brother, and John Morrison representing himself and The Miz. This was a fun spot fest.
Yeah.
Not a lot of actual wrestling is fun. A lot of messing with the ladders and doing
messing with the
fun,
surroundings.
cool things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
which is what you usually expect from a ladder match, especially with people of the caliber of Jimmy, Morrison, and Kofi.
yeah, and what made it better for me is that where there was no crowd, there was a lot more trash talking, especially from the Uso.
Yeah.
You know, he was proper getting involved, like making it his own match, if you will. I kind of thought it was fun. I'd also say probably one of the most, if not the unique ending to a ladder match. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before.
Yeah, it was strange. I actually didn't realise what happened at first. It took me a few seconds to realise what even happened.
I was wondering at first glance, because obviously the match was so back and forth.
Yeah.
I was wondering at first if it was meant to have happened, especially looking at the Uso and Kingston's face. But on second glances, looking at the replay as well, you see John Morrison actually grab the belts in the place he needs to rip them off as he falls. So you get the feeling that was planned, and I think that's why I put it down to such a unique finish, because all three of them unhooked.
Yeah, the thing, because nowadays, back in the day, it used to be like a weird just rope or string. I'm not even sure what it used to be. But now it's like
now it's like attached to something that's attached to something else.
It's like a triangle thing that's like hooked onto, I presume, some sort of crane or like roof hanging, and the belts are strapped onto the end bar bit of this triangular thing. And yeah, they take off the triangle thing off of whatever's holding it up, and they're all just going back and forth, and then Morrison just falls, and it takes Kofi and Jimmy a few seconds to realise the belts are no longer there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so interesting finish. But yeah, overall, pretty fun. Was not how I was expecting things to go. Although I do believe I did say I expected them to retain. Next is Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens. This, as far as straight up wrestling matches, this was probably one of the best. It was definitely the best of this night. There was after the beginning, it just got really intense. There was so much going on, and I don't think there's a point in delaying talking about let's talk about the ending first. Actually, the ending in quotes.
Yes.
I was ready to make this match a 0 out of 10.
Yeah, it was almost all that hard work, all that in-ring you've just done, and you've destroyed it with a disqualification.
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally building up. They were talking about Seth Rollins' WrestleMania streak. All right, it's not as quite impressive as The Undertaker's,
Yeah.
but we were talking, 6 WrestleManias where Seth Rollins has been involved and he hasn't lost. So at this point, it's a streak. And for him to lose it by a blatant disqualification, I was ready to turn WrestleMania off because it was one match I was looking forward to.
I would like that as a good coward heel move, considering what happened next, which is that the match was restarted.
Thanks to Kevin Owens. And it was made no disqualification.
Yep. And the ending was something.
It was.
It might be the only time at a WrestleMania, considering the scope of the stages of WrestleMania, it might be the only time we ever see the stage spot at WrestleMania, where Kevin Owens just does a leg drop from the sign into, I believe it was a table. Or was it into something?
It was into something, but it was. You
spot.
talk about WrestleMania moments, that's one that stands out.
And naturally, after such a crazy spot, he manages to get Rollins into the ring, and with a stunner, he finishes it. Well, it's not over. There's no way there's not going to be repercussions from Rollins for this.
No, we're talking. We're talking about ending a streak. You know, and Kevin Owens is. I personally didn't expect Kevin Owens to come away with a win for this match, but like I said, either which way,
I think he definitely earned it with the performance.
Oh, without a doubt. But either which way, I wasn't going to be salty about who won this match.
No.
But I think under the storyline circumstances, Seth Rollins probably would have wanted it more because of this whole Messiah gimmick he's bringing on.
It's also going to be interesting because Seth Rollins sometimes has a way of saying the rematch should not have happened. So technically he should not have actually been beaten at WrestleMania. Because he got himself disqualified, but that doesn't mean Owens bested him. And the second match doesn't count because it shouldn't have happened. You can easily see you
can make stuff out of it. I mean, this could even ultimately end up bringing out a more determined and destructive side of Seth Rollins.
On Raw, we did see some of that, so that could be an interesting turn of events in the fallout of WrestleMania. So now get to a match that we didn't really expect much from this one. Braun Strowman versus Goldberg. I didn't really expect much from this. Yet somehow I'm still disappointed.
Do you know, this is the thing. I mean, you put Becky and Shayna Baszler down at the bottom, right? This is one match that you could possibly argue was worse than it.
There was just literally nothing.
What was it? 4 spears and a couple of
Power slams.
Power slams, and then a running power slam, and that was the match. Albeit, I did not expect Braun Strowman to win. I can only put it down to Goldberg not being contracted past WrestleMania.
I also just... I have never felt concern like I did when Goldberg teased trying to jackhammer Braun Strowman. One of those men would have died.
If not both.
Oh dear.
I mean...
Because his jackhammer has not been safe or good. I don't think it was safe or good at the end of his WCW run.
I don't even think it was safe or good at the beginning of his WCW run.
But
Goldberg always screamed a bit too intense for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I thought it was fun back in the 90s, especially late 90s, 98 when he debuted and stuff. But
what's worth noting, he's not a traditional wrestler. Brought in by WCW from football.
Yeah, he was a football player. That didn't work out. Then he ended up at the WCW power plant. They trained him to be a wrestler, and we got Bill Goldberg. And I talk about it being fun and back in the 90s. Let's not forget, in 97, 98, when he debuted, I was 7?
He wasn't a bad gimmick per se, but he was never a wrestler.
No.
And he even admits to that. If you've ever watched any of the documentaries or behind the scenes, he has never considered himself even really much of a wrestler. It's just the profession he ended up in for a long time, and it's what he's
paid the
probably
bills.
most famous for.
Yeah, I mean, it paid the bills. It made him famous.
Yeah. Now it's time to get a bit excited though. This was AJ Styles versus The Undertaker is one of my favourite things WWE have done for a while, only to be eclipsed later on by another fun thing that they haven't done ever. But AJ Styles and Undertaker it wasn't a match, but it was definitely an experience.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It felt like I was watching some like your Lost or Walking Dead or stuff like that. But
It was very B-rated movie, weren't it?
but I loved it.
You know.
It was fantastic, and there was a lot of swearing and just not caring in this one.
It was full on.
Taker cut himself on a window, you know. I love the entire flow of Styles being up on Taker being full old man, and Styles just bullshitting him and taunting him, and then getting that flipped on him when the power started.
Yeah, I mean, the trash talking was second to none in this one. The cinematics was amazing.
It was great.
I mean, even when it started, just AJ Styles' entrance to the match alone was incredible.
Yeah. When you thought it was going to be The Undertaker.
There it is, AJ. Even I was surprised. I did not expect AJ Styles to be in that tomb. Genuinely did not.
But yeah, they've learned a lot from when they tried to do that Wyatt compound match.
Yeah.
They have learned a lot about doing these cinematic outside. It was a set, very obviously, and for obvious reasons. But,
it was still cool.
Oh, absolutely.
The surroundings were cool.
The detail of
Yeah.
AJ Styles' name being on the gravestone the entire time was a fun little thing.
Yeah, of course.
The hand reaching out of the dirt was a little silly.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that it wasn't super ultra serious. And it was just really fun.
Yeah, even when even that bit where Undertaker's dominating and then it just cuts away and there's Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson just there in the background and then they get involved. Then there was that awesome moment where Undertaker's just standing there, and then bang, a load of druids just come out of nowhere and they're surrounding him, and Undertaker's just there looking around. There's 8 druids around him and he's just there are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And then clears them out. And then goes back to AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Then there was the whole... Even the respect near the end of the match where Undertaker's got him and he's like, you did good, kid.
Yeah.
You fought well.
Yeah.
You give me a fight. And then looked like he was just going to let him slide and then turn around, kicks him in the grave.
Yeah, to get a bit.
We end... Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't last ride him into the grave, to be honest.
it was fun.
I was great.
It was hella fun to watch.
I was captivated. I don't think I blinked.
I got. Do you know what? It was, as much as it was fun to watch. I got to admit, it would probably be fun to have been involved in that. You can imagine the level of fun. All parties in that. Undertaker, AJ, Gallows, Anderson, and whoever were dressed up as druids. When they all sat down and talked about this. There must have been a lot. It must have been a fun conversation. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that room.
Yeah. So that was night 1, and I'm glad the Styles and Undertaker ended because it picked me right back up for WrestleMania after the Braun Strowman Goldberg match.
Yeah, interesting. Before we end it on night 1, interesting about that was the Undertaker's look. I mean, he had the biker look going on, but if you notice, he had the Phenom, 97, 98, yeah.
The leather jacket, the leather biker jacket he had on was very much a throwback to his 97, pre-ministry Phenom.
Yeah, it was like biker Taker mixed with Phenom Taker, and it was quite cool.
You know what else we forgot? I didn't write in my notes. The 24/7 title. R-Truth losing it to Mojo
Didn't
Rawley.
that happen in night 2 though?
No, that's when the other thing happens.
I thought in night 1, R-Truth just came and this is how mad it is.
I'm sure there's an interaction between the two at night 1.
I'm pretty sure on night 1, right? This is how mad the 24/7 has become. The 24/7 title.
I'll be honest, I kind of almost forgot
It
about
blanks out.
everything
I'm
involved in it.
Pretty sure night 1 just consumed of R-Truth trying to hide out.
Okay, we'll talk about both
Yeah.
instances when we get to the final one, because I don't remember the flow of things for that. Anyways, we start night 2 with the pre-show between Liv Morgan and Natalya. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, the match itself was... for what it was fine. It just screamed put together.
I can never tell if Natalya's underutilized or if she's just not
Overrated.
very good. I think it would take her leaving WWE for me to tell.
Yeah, I think a run with Natalya somewhere else apart from the WWE
Sort of
will
like...
determine whether she
sort
is
of like,
all that.
what was his name? The one with Tyson Kidd.
Oh, David Hart Smith.
David Hart Smith.
Yeah.
Because he ended up being really good at
Yeah,
WWE.
when he went to NJPW.
And all that, yeah. Yeah, so I was trying to think, it's completely lost me because WWE just did not use them very well. But yeah, a run somewhere else would be a good indication, but in WWE, it's just not worth her being there.
At
It's
this
not
point
worth
in
her
WWE
time or anyone else's.
Yeah, I know, but I think at this point in Natalya's career, I mean, what are we talking? She must have debuted around 2007. So we're talking 13 years in WWE. I mean, how, depending on the age and the athleticism of her, it's hard to think where she would go to actually be able to showcase her talent. And we're talking, Natalya's got to be past her prime at this point. 13 years in one company. And surely you've hit your prime. I just think WWE have never really used her much. And I've never been able to take her seriously ever since the whole fart diabolical that she had with Beth Phoenix.
That was character assassination for WWE.
It really was.
It really was.
And I can only assume it's because it's such a cutthroat business that unless she's really into that sort of stuff and finds that humorous, I can only imagine she agreed to it just to be on TV.
Yeah. I don't know.
Liv Morgan got the win.
Yeah.
Kind of expected it, to be honest.
Yeah, it would have been weird if Natalya beat Liv Morgan, considering that like Liv Morgan's an actively up and coming superstar that definitely has been shown some
Potential.
favour and
Yeah.
potential. So not really.
I'm happy
sure.
Liv Morgan got the win. Not really much to say on the match, just that it was fine for what it was.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a whole different story if Natalya had got the win.
The main show starts off proper with Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley, which was a good match. The match was a little slow.
Yeah.
A little slow.
It seemed to be a case of two people sizing each other up and respecting each other's in-ring capabilities, rather than getting in there, getting stuck in like you probably would have expected because of how they've utilised the whole background to this match.
I think this match might have gone on some people's nerves. I
Yeah.
can imagine, because empty arena plus big limb targeting means lots of ow my leg.
Yeah.
And Rhea Ripley has very much tennis voice going on.
Yeah.
Now,
it was like a broken record with
I did enjoy the selling. I thought it was good that someone actually paid attention. I feel like she was either told to or interpreted too much to like oversell it in terms of her voice, just because of how much she vocalized, and it just seemed a bit much in that regard. But the actual physical selling and such was really good, and it obviously led into a lot of moments in the match, such as her drop kick off of the turnbuckle, and ultimately, because of how long the match went on for and how much damage her leg took, even when she eventually had to tap, I still think she got over to an extent.
Yeah.
like this. What I expected Charlotte to win, to pass on the torch, to sort of go to NXT and be someone to
Nurture.
sort of help nurture talent, and so it's good. And it's good that in doing that they didn't really sacrifice Rhea's potential as a superstar. It's possible they may look to bring her up.
Yeah, I mean, like they didn't kill Rhea Ripley.
No.
I mean, she lost the match, but she can walk away head held high. She gives
Absolutely.
Charlotte probably the fight of her life within the last year or so.
Yeah.
You know, this was caliber of the old Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Charlotte type matches that we became accustomed to. Even the Bayley Charlotte matches, you know. So it was good that they didn't damage Rhea Ripley's image.
No.
You know, she fought valiantly.
She got some really good hits in.
Yeah, I mean, there were times in there where you actually thought Rhea Ripley might do this.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately the Queen stands tall. I didn't expect it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the way things went in the match, I'm not disappointed.
Absolutely. So, next we had Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. This match was ultimately... It was fine. I think Aleister Black got what he could out of Lashley in this one.
You know what? I think, for me, the way the match went is why I rate this match as highly as I do. Because ultimately, the way things are going, especially with Aleister Black, is we seem to have seen him destroy people with one move, two moves.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of came to think that, especially with the way they've booked Lashley over the past couple of months, that this would be the case tonight. Even got more down about it when we heard Lana was going to be involved, and actually seeing her come out just put a damper on it. And I just thought to myself, if I go to the bathroom to relieve myself and come back, this match is going to be over.
Yeah.
But when the match started and it got into it, they actually put on a fight and actually put on a show. I was so impressed with that aspect of it. And even the ending I wasn't too disappointed with, because it sort of teased the end of a Lana-Lashley relationship.
I hope so.
I mean, what Lana did to Lashley to cost him the match is ultimately like AJ Lee's kiss of death to Daniel Bryan.
One of the shortest WrestleMania matches.
Let's be honest, right? When we're looking at it, Lashley had this match won.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, potentially. Lashley had this match won. Lana gets up. She's like, no, do this. And Lashley, don't want to disappoint his woman, goes for it. He ends up...
Gets a black mask for his troubles.
Yeah. I mean, she wants him to do a spear. He run right into a kick in the face. And then it's the look. You know, the look he was giving Lana afterwards, and the look Lana was giving him. Trouble in Paradise.
Not Kofi Kingston's finisher. No. Yeah. So, next we have, in the words of one Michael Cole, one of the most personal matches in WrestleMania history. Dolph Ziggler versus Otis. Now, this match was not a particularly great wrestling match. It was pretty bum average to but the furthering of this storyline was enjoyable. I think one of the things I think people will mostly focus on this match is, if you don't care about story, you're not going to enjoy this. If you got invested into the Otis Mandy Rose story,
you're going to love it.
Yeah, because there's not much here for people who aren't invested into this feud. As two people who have enjoyed it as much as we usually do not enjoy romance angles in wrestling, because they're usually trite and bollocks, it's been really enjoyable, and the feeling you got when Mandy Rose came out and she slapped Sonya Deville, and now it looked like it was going to go the worst possible way when Sonya kicked Otis in the knackers, Then Mandy Rose comes out, slaps Sonya Deville, does the same thing to Ziggler. Otis gets to do the caterpillar, gets to hit the elbow, gets to win. Not only that, they have basically the Macho Man Miss Elizabeth moment.
Yeah.
He scoops her up to his arms, they kiss, they run, walk off into the sunset. Hopefully happily ever after. Something tells me there's going to be a mixed tag match or something of the ilk further down the line.
I mean, you got the feeling something was going to happen. I mean, we had that moment backstage where Dolph and Sonya are talking and none of them know where Mandy Rose is. Then Sonya accompanies Dolph Ziggler and you just feel like, yeah, something's got to be happening here. I think I would have been disappointed if Mandy Rose didn't show up at WrestleMania. The wrestling side of it, not too much to shout about, but we weren't here for the wrestling side of it on this point.
Like I said,
this was storyline based. This was simply storyline. I mean, I spent more time waiting for Mandy Rose to come out more than I did actually watching the match.
Yeah.
You know, so kudos to the writing on that one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in a wrestling show, if you can make a story more interesting than the actual wrestling match, that's good storytelling. Right. Good storytelling.
Next, we had the last man standing match between Edge and Randy Orton. This was, thankfully, despite it being an empty arena, they used their surroundings as much as they could. Now, it was interesting that Randy Orton disguised himself as a cameraman.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that little touch, though. I did kind of like that little touch.
It was very fun, especially since they didn't telegraph it. He just sort of appears from behind Edge, and it takes until you see the replay to see him take off the hoodie and let go of the camera. And that camera came back into play during the match.
It did. I mean, I got to admit, the start of that... It took me a while to get into the match. Not because it wasn't a great match, because for me, after all said and done, not that it weren't a great match. For me, after all said and done, I'd probably put this, if not the best, one of the best. It was definitely in top 3 of the best WrestleMania matches on the card.
It was really good.
There was this moment, though. The reason it took me so long to get into it was I kind of feared for the worst at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, it was such an abrupt start. Randy Orton's music plays, we're waiting for him, he's disguising himself as a cameraman, gets in, RKO. And from that point, I'm thinking to myself, please don't destroy Edge. Just don't be one of those where we're just going to completely see the demise of Edge and then have him carried out on a stretcher. As it gone on and then Edge started getting offense, then I started getting into the match. But after the start, the RKO, and then...
Your nerves were just...
I was just going to think it was just going to be a complete onslaught from Randy Orton, and Edge wasn't going to be even able to stand up in the match.
There were some nervous spots in the match.
There really was.
There were some moments I was like, you remember you've got a fucked neck, right?
Yeah, it was like Edge almost forgot. But, you know, credit to him. Both of these men put on an absolute show.
The draping DDT.
On
the truck.
The elbow drop. He's hanging off of the thing. And some amazing stuff they did.
Ooh.
At the same time, this was more than just a last man standing match. Theoretically, this was like a tour of the performance center at the same time.
Yeah.
Because they went everywhere. The production area,
but that's
the gym.
what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
from this match.
it was
this
so fun.
Want from a last man standing match or a Falls Count Anywhere type of match, for them to use their environment to the best of their ability. Because especially since this is a fucking grudge match, this is a no love lost sort of match.
Kind of funny that we saw security there as well. There's no crowd, but we still got security in there. Like, I thought they were quite funny touches. Yeah. When they were going past the whole vending machine area, I thought there was going to be people there. Like,
in the office.
You know, there was so much. It was so fun. You know, they brought WrestleMania to life.
I'm not sure what the purpose of that red, like, in between bit near the stage is for. That was a weird place. But, no, the point is they had a lot of fun with it, and I've really enjoyed it, and the match had that really emotional, cathartic ending.
Yeah.
With Edge almost breaking down as he comes to terms with a decision to do unto Orton what Orton did onto him back on Raw those weeks ago, and hit him with the chair after he was pretty much done anyways.
It was kind of symbolic because there was a lot, especially with the SmackDown thing. We had that moment on SmackDown where they showed the WrestleMania match between Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, that "I'm sorry, I love you," kick him in the face and then hug him as he pins him.
Yeah.
Kind of similar instance after the concerto and the 10 count, he gets down and he sort of hugs Randy Orton.
Emotional catharsis. Obviously, there's a lot more baggage to that Flair Michaels thing, but I definitely think they were going for a similar feel. I do agree with that, and yeah, the SmackDown thing definitely lends credence to that. But yeah, really good. After that, we had Austin Theory and Angel Garza versus the Street Profits for the tag team titles. This was a good match. I have definitely seen better from 3 of these 4 people. I don't really know much about Austin Theory.
Yeah, this is the thing when you just it's sort of like, this is one of them matches where you'll think back and you'll look back on it. Although it was a good match for what it was, it's one of those what could have been matches. Because you have Austin Theory come in for Andrade, who unfortunately got injured before WrestleMania.
From the Raw, I think.
Yeah. So you get that feeling of a what could have been, and I think that's what takes it away from the match itself.
Yeah,
because overall, the match was pretty solid. Definitely seen a lot better. But
because it's worth knowing, even though wrestling is of course scripted and staged, you've got to remember that because of that, one wrestler getting replaced is a big deal.
Yeah.
Austin Theory is going to wrestle differently to how Andrade does. He's going to have different comfort levels with spots and moves he can do, which means ultimately this match had to get probably replanned by all 4 men at the last minute.
I mean, you're talking like Angel Garza and Andrade, even though they're a new tag team figuring out themselves.
It's a good point as well. The chemistry is not there.
The chemistry won't be there between Garza and Theory because they are just thrown together just to keep that match alive. Worth noting though, the debut of Bianca Belair.
Yeah, so let's get into that. After the match, after Dawkins got the pin on Theory, the heels took umbrage to being beaten. Zelina got a move in even, but just in the nick of time, Bianca Belair of NXT comes out to even the odds. And you know what? She looked good.
Yeah.
And this could be interesting. If this is her push to the main roster, we could see an even number. They could continue the feud between Andrade / Theory and Garza and Street Profits, with the added element of Zelina Vega and Bianca Belair being active participants and not just Vega being a manager.
Yeah, I mean we've said this for the past few weeks on Raw. I mean Jack specifically, who unfortunately can't be here tonight due to this whole coronavirus quarantine thing. So we're running a bit solo. Probably should have mentioned that at the beginning, but
I think they would have noticed.
Yeah, but look, like I said, we've been saying for weeks, Selena can wrestle. We know what she's about.
She's not had anyone to wrestle with, given the current state of things.
Now we have that in Bianca Belair. You've incorporated Bianca Belair with the Street Profits in the middle of the feud they've got with what's supposed to be Andrade and Angel Garza. Instead, we've got Theory and Angel Garza. But even still, we've got that feud. So now we see singles matches between Bianca Belair and Zelina Vega.
Hopefully. Belair is also a great wrestler.
Yeah, amazing. Her performance in the Royal Rumble. Wow. Yeah, her performance in the Royal Rumble was just wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, hopefully she has a rival there. Next, we have the 5-way elimination match for the SmackDown Women's title.
Where do we begin with this one?
Let's quickly go down the actual results of the match. Just get through the eliminations. Banks and Bay started things off early on with some tag team work. They actually maintained
the friendship,
solid tag team thing throughout the entire match for the most part, which we'll get into. Tamina was very dominant early on, However, she is the first one eliminated.
I think we get that. How many times do you see it in these type of matches? I mean, the dominant one. I mean, we've seen it so many times over the years. Braun Strowman, Rikishi, Viscera. Whenever there's sort of like that big presence in a match, it takes the whole ring to clear them, whether it be in a battle royal or a pinfall.
But I am glad they did go with that style of needing everyone to stop her just to
keep Tamina's image the way it is. Yeah.
Because since she's come back, she's looked promising. It looks like they actually have some faith in her this time, which they have not had previously. No. Like, I don't remember who she was with. But I remember, I think actually, to go back to Natalya, I think it was back when Natalya was still pretty fresh with the Dynasty when she first appeared as the heel female component of, like, another tag team.
The Usos.
Was it the Usos?
It was the Usos. Because in hindsight, they all come from that sort of wrestling background.
That's
and
true.
they're all from
Yeah,
like
Jimmy
the same.
Thing,
yeah.
But yeah, she showed up then and she was nothing. She was less than an afterthought back then.
No, but she's bulked up a bit now. I mean, she looks in great shape.
Yeah. So hopefully they actually have some faith behind her this time. We'll see some good stuff from her. I've been interested in her so far since her return. After that, Naomi was the next one eliminated. At that point, at some point, Lacey Evans was just pretty much wiped out of the match for a while, and Naomi was on her own as the only other face in the match, and she did well to hold them off for a while, but they overtook her with the numbers game. She had to tap to the bank statement, out of match, leaving, of all people, when we talked about this, we talked about like Tamina making it to the end because of how dominant she'd been. But of all of the people in the match, Lacey Evans got the final face moment.
I mean, the thing is, like, I got to admit, I was impressed with Lacey Evans in this match.
Fine.
You know,
her old school, I forget her name, but the old World War, women doing the women workforce, poster child sort of thing. She has that whole sort of retro World War girl thing. I'm sorry, I did this sort of stuff in history and it just left my head. Like, you don't remember any of that stuff from school. But she has that whole gimmick going, which is really strange for a wrestler. I assume she has some ties to that, to have that. But she, as far as wrestling goes, this was the first time I've seen her actually get some good moves in. And yeah, she seemed fine. The whole punch being her finisher is
interesting for a woman.
Yeah.
We've never really had that.
Huge fan of the super powerful strike. The only exception is William Regal because he cheats. But I've never been a huge fan of it. But overall, she was good.
To be fair, I kind of understood Big Show's reasoning as well, though. I mean, that guy's got a fist bigger than my head. You know, if he hit me, I'm pretty sure I'm knocked out.
It's just a weird one when you have, like, compared to other wrestling finishers. But yeah, Lacey Evans. Interestingly, this is where the start of some dissension goes, and the way they decide to handle the Banks Bailey thing for this match, a bit weird.
Yeah.
But it started with basically Bailey fucking up.
Yeah.
Her and Sasha Banks take too long and spend too much time toying Lacey while having her locked up. She gets away at the last minute. Bailey hits Banks, and it basically allows Evans to hit the woman's right and eliminate her. And there's a look.
There is. As she hits that and she gets on the pin, Bailey is at the other end. She has time to break up this pinfall.
It's a good thing to note that she does not stop.
She just watches. From the moment she hits the woman's rights to the moment she pins Banks, Bailey is watching this whole time.
Yeah.
There is not one moment where she thought...
She doesn't even hesitate.
No, she watches. And I think that was the mentality that I was trying to point out. All right, I said, look, if it came down to it, do one to before you do it to me. Yeah, and
Yeah.
even though it didn't work out the way I said, that little moment there told me that was the mentality there.
Yeah.
You know, it was gonna. It could have possibly came down to Bailey and Sasha, and she got that little thing where Sasha won't lay down for me and let me retain my title if push came to shove.
Yeah.
So while there's a chance, I'm gonna take it, and she took it.
Now, interestingly, Banks did still help her ultimately win the match. But there was definitely some frustration there, and it definitely feels like they're still going for, if this split happens, Banks is clearly being set up as the face currently, which they could completely swerve on by the time it actually happens. They could never do it, because WWE have a tendency of setting something up for ages and then not delivering.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Ultimately, Bailey retains. There's conflict between her and Banks. And ultimately, the match didn't go as I expected it to. And I would have wanted more.
Yeah,
from
definitely.
It, ultimately.
Definitely.
But
Especially with the
wasn't-
superstars that were in it.
Yeah, but it wasn't a bad match.
No.
It just could have been better, for sure, in my opinion. Next, I suppose before we get into what I'm going to say are the two main events of the night, because for the life of me, in my notes, I can't figure this out. Let's quickly go over the 24/7 title.
So somewhere here in WrestleMania, the 24/7 title came into play. Twice.
And it was as pointless as it has ever been. At some point,
R-Truth loses it to Mojo Rawley
he does.
because he goes to chill with them and they attack him.
Yeah.
And then Gronk goes to win it, but Mojo Rawley says, no, that's mine, and he pins him, and he runs off with the title, and then they end up sort of running around, and they end up sort of in the midst of like a load of superstars chasing for the title. Am I correct? Is that that happens?
I remember distinctly a load of bodies I don't recognise on the ground.
And then Gronk actually wins the 24/7 title. See, this is how silly the 24/7 title has become. We forget about it.
So pointless. And ultimately, this also means that they end up just not being around for the rest of the night. And their duties as sort of for nothing, for like one great reaction in his credit. One great reaction, which we'll get to in a second. But for most part, for no reason, Titus takes their spot on the corner area thing.
Yes.
Titus O'Neil. As ever, just what position do we have free? I'll put Titus there.
But the thing is, no, we can say that till we're blue in the face. Like, whatever's free, we'll put Titus there, but he's so underrated.
I do like Titus.
Do you know what? No matter what capacity you can put Titus O'Neil in, he will do it to the best. He never disappoints me.
Let's get to something I will probably not forget for a long time, if ever. The Firefly Funhouse match was...
Before we get into the Firefly Funhouse match, we would sit here for hours, days leading up to this, ever since it was announced, trying to figure out what would this? Yeah, what is a Firefly Funhouse match? And I can safely say that it was not what we got. Nothing in my head. Nothing. I mean, first of all, it's worth pointing out that it wasn't even a match per se.
Again, much like Styles and Takeoff, it was just an experience.
More than, yeah.
It was less of a match than the Styles Taker match was.
I mean, look, I said this to everyone off mic, so I'll say it here as well, and whether people agree with me or not, that's fair dues, but to me this felt like a Mankind This Is Your Life moment with The Rock mixed with Freddy Krueger's Nightmares.
It was...
That's the best way I can describe it.
It was... I have never seen and will likely never see anything in wrestling quite like this ever again in my lifetime. And I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
So let's sort of run this one down, because there's a lot to process in this one. First of all, John Cena comes out to the ring, of course, naturally. Well, he comes to the stage. And then, just as he's getting started, we're gone. We're at the Firefly Funhouse. The usual thing, we have the little song, we have Bray, and we have Rambling Rabbit. And Bray ends up going through a door that's marked Abandon Hope, all ye who exit here. And Bray goes through, and suddenly Cena is in the funhouse. And he has a little bit of a dialogue with Rambling Rabbit, which was very interesting. And just, yeah, at Rambling Rabbit's direction, he follows Wyatt through the door. But he doesn't find Wyatt. He finds Mr. McBossman.
Worth pointing out, Mr. McBossman steals the show. I mean, just the name alone had me on the floor.
How Vince allowed this character of himself, which it clearly is, through, is astonishing to me. Because this was, like, this felt like, at points, it's a different kind of setting, obviously. But it kind of felt similar to CM Punk's pipe bomb moment, where he laid out on his own terms, in his own way, all of his frustrations with wrestling as an industry, in his experience, and he laid it all out there, but in his own way, which seemed to be framing it in like an acid trip nightmare. And we start as Chaz puts it, the "This Is Your Life"-esque moment with a reenactment of Angle's open challenge from SmackDown, which led to our first ever appearance of the prototype John Cena in his stupid little shorts. And we had that.
It was even worse with the updated John Cena hairstyle.
And yeah, John Cena had fun with this, which was interesting, because you hear some stories about John Cena sometimes, and you get the impression that he might have gained a bit of an ego from being a big superstar. And while that might be true, he was fully willing to make a complete joke of himself.
Yeah.
Just hearing him go, "Ruthless aggression!"
Yeah.
Constantly, and just easily be ducked from. And this had two stunning, takes from Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
First, there's "No wonder you almost got fired."
Yeah.
Which is ow, first of all. But then to do
the Bella's music theme.
"You can look, but you can't touch."
And it was amazing.
That's cold, man. That's cold. But excellent. And from there, we sort of have a brief debate. We have a brief sort of distraction as we seem to go even further back in time to John Cena's influence in old school 80s wrestlers.
Yeah.
The old school wrestling thing. And we get Johnny Meathead? It's something like that he calls him. Johnny Meatstick or Meathead or something. And it's worth noting that he introduces his partner, Johnny Meat something, as with, "You don't have to have talent, just a lot of muscles." Which, again, ow!
Yeah.
Just so much roasting of Cena in this entire quote-unquote match. And, yeah, that's fun. I believe we have a load of old Wyatt versus Cena moments.
Yeah.
Including one of the WrestleManias.
We even got homage to the Hall of Fame in there as well, because we couldn't have the Hall of Fame. We got the NWO version of John Cena and Bray Wyatt.
That's true, which was really interesting. And yeah, the whole thing was a trip. And the ending was much like Titus O'Neil when the match was over. I kind of just stared wide-eyed at the screen as it transpired. As, the Fiend appears gets the mandible claw on, but then transitions it into the Sister Abigail, which, as he has him in the Sister Abigail, there's this close-up seeing his face, and we get the repeat of what he said on SmackDown, about how at WrestleMania, he's going to retire after after so many long years, he said some number, I don't quite remember, I think it might have been 6. After so many long years, you are going to see the end of the most hyped, overrated wrestler. And it's as it's closing on his face, and then Sister Abigail, mandible claw, Bray Wyatt appears to count the pin with the Fiend still in the mandible claw, which is a trip. Little disappointed they didn't do an extra fuckery to like have them both on screen at the same time, considering it's pre-recorded. But whatever, still fun. And he pins 1, 2, 3, and after a few seconds of the Fiend standing there, Cena just disappears.
Yeah.
He's just gone.
I mean, it's one of those where you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. There's no in-between.
No.
Right? It took me a while to figure out if I loved it or hated it. Simply because I kind of was hoping for a good wrestling match between the two. And then I got that. And at the end of it, my face resembled Titus O'Neil.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm sitting there and what did I just watch?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember taking drugs before that match.
Now, I think a lot of it will be dependent on what happens from here.
And from now on, Mr. McMahon will be called Mr. McBossman. This is the take home here.
Yeah.
Because that
was great. That was fantastic.
Highlight.
But, yeah, depending on where it goes from here, wow.
I'm wondering...
It's memorable.
It's is.
Sad.
I'm wondering, though, like, did we only get that style of Firefly Funhouse match because of the no crowd thing? Or do you think they would have gone with that?
My issue with that is, if this whole thing hadn't happened, I don't see how you convince a giant arena full of people to watch the screen for that long.
Exactly my point. That's what I'm getting. So, in the midst of all this...
We got a bonus. We got
we got something amazing out of this.
Which is what I was saying in predictions. As long... And I've said it off mic, off light, when we're not on air, a bunch of times. They need to do something unique with this situation. And they did it twice. And both of those experiences were two of the things I will most take away from this WrestleMania. So, you know what? I have a lot of things I could say about WWE for like pretty much the last like half of my life almost. But
we got to thank them.
This was something. This was something.
The thing is as well is I would say thank you to the creative team, but at the end of the day, I think we all know.
This feels like Bray Wyatt's baby. This match.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's thank you WWE and WWE Creative for allowing Bray Wyatt and John Cena to do what they wanted to do in this match.
I will not forget this certainly not in the foreseeable future. So, let's move on to a match that ended the night, ended WrestleMania, and ultimately, I am going to say, if you did not like this match, if you hated this match, I get it. I really get it. Because, on paper, if I just read my notes as well, this is basically the Goldberg-Braun Strowman match. But the feeling behind it, and ultimately the way it ended up, I was okay with how it went.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar was essentially the exact same thing as Strowman versus Goldberg. One of them did a certain number of their finisher. One of them did one more of their finisher, and that person won the match, and the title changed hands. But not only Drew McIntyre being the first British World Champion in WWE, not only that,
he's got to be the first person to ever kick out of the F5 at a 1 count.
1 count, and to kick out of it 3 times in a row. Like, he did some John Cena Supermaning.
I mean, yeah, we've seen John Cena, we've seen Roman Reigns, we've even seen Triple H. We've seen so many people now kick out of the F5, but not one of them have been able to kick out at a 1 count, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
That was incredible. To then kick out of more F5s afterwards, I mean, credit to Brock Lesnar. I mean, he kicked out of the Claymore kick.
Twice, because I think on the 3rd one he went straight into the 4th.
Yeah, so this did have the Braun Strowman Goldberg feel to it, but there was more emotion.
I think what helped with it as well was that in the Braun Strowman Goldberg match, it was very cold. Like, it would just move after move after move. Whereas with this match, Brock Lesnar finally gets the F5, and Drew kicks out at 1. And you just see Brock's face.
Yeah, even Paul Heyman's face.
He laughs, and he does it again, and you see the shock every time, and you feel the desperation from Drew every time he kicks out, every time he hits the move, and every time that Brock then kicks out, and there was just an energy to it that was vacant. Like, the Braun Strowman Goldberg match felt like watching 2 corpses in a morgue. This match felt like I was sweating the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, I was so worried they were going to screw Drew over at this point. Because I expected, because of the lack of crowd, they wouldn't give Drew his moment. And while I am devastated for Drew that he doesn't get that pop when he wins
actually
the world
wins
title,
that match, yeah.
he has deserved this.
Yeah, I mean,
He's deserved it since before he returned.
At the same time as well, I think it's worth pointing out that the way it went, if Brock Lesnar had actually retained the title, I wouldn't have been too mad about it either.
No.
Because of the way the match actually turned out to be, even though it was just a couple of F5s, a couple of German suplexes, and a couple of Claymore kicks. But the feel you got watching that match, I wouldn't have been too devastated if Brock Lesnar retained the title.
But again, just because Ty was, I do completely understand if people don't like this match. It's worth knowing we are doing this after Raw.
Yeah, we are doing this after Raw, so we know what happens on Raw. Now, we were just contemplating whether to sort of talk about this now because it technically happened at WrestleMania, even though they've shown it on Raw, or whether just to put it in the Raw review, which will be coming at a later date. But because it happened at WrestleMania, we will talk about the fact that WrestleMania wasn't done with the Drew McIntyre Brock Lesnar match.
No, after it went off the air, we had an interesting encounter.
We did. So Drew McIntyre comes out, and I must say the WWE title does look good around Drew McIntyre's waist. We get in, and he has a little interview, and he's talking how it hasn't quite sunk in the fact that he's WWE champion. It's been 20 minutes. 20 minutes has passed at this point since he won it, and it doesn't feel real to him.
Yeah.
But he changed the plates, so to try and make it feel real. And as he's sort of taking it all in, the moment, it's WrestleMania, he hasn't had time to talk to his family. We get the Big Show.
Yeah. Of all people.
Now, I kind of understand it at the same time of not understanding it. Now, the reason I understand it, and whether they did this on purpose or if it's just in my head, for me, they do this because Big Show is promoting his new television series, which I might add, does look pretty good.
The Big Show.
The Big Show show.
On Netflix, I believe.
Yeah, but, I'm going to tune into that because I've seen the trailer for it and it looks hilarious.
I guess Netflix probably has a bigger, general audience market. It's just really weird that it isn't on the network.
Yeah. But even so, I feel like that's the whole reason for this. You know, we ain't seen Big Show in a long time in a wrestling standpoint.
I think for the most part, he's probably done.
Yeah. But for him to come out and he doesn't challenge Drew McIntyre for the title per se. He just challenges Drew McIntyre to a match. Drew McIntyre doesn't accept at first. He sort of says, look, I've just wrestled Brock Lesnar. I don't know if you've just been watching backstage, but while I was on the WrestleMania card winning titles, you were nowhere. I'm not gonna fight you. Ultimately, Big Show sort of pushes Drew McIntyre into accepting, and somewhere down the line, this does become a title match.
Yeah. Well, we all know who's going to win. Sorry, Drew, this was a short title reign, but I mean,
I ain't gonna. The way WWE book things, it wouldn't have surprised me. You know, it would have been a kick in the teeth for everyone that tuned into WrestleMania to watch Drew McIntyre thing, and then for it to come on Raw.
Super Showdown did happen.
Yeah, but look. Think of it like you got WrestleMania, everyone's tuned in and you've watched it, and then imagine watching Raw the next night and then seeing that off air Drew McIntyre lost the WWE title to Big Show. Would have been an ultimate kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. Drew McIntyre does get the win. The match itself was pretty decent for what it was. I mean, to say it come out of nowhere.
And as you mentioned, Big Show doesn't really wrestle.
No, I mean, but Big Show held his own. Drew McIntyre done well against the big man. Ultimately, Big Show goes for the punch. Drew ducks, hits him with the Claymore, and it's over. But it was fun. Just that little spot while it lasted.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting sort of way to sort of like keep things fresh, if you will, on a WrestleMania that did seem fresh in so many ways.
So in other words, tune into the Big Show on Netflix.
Yep.
Streaming now. But no, definitely. Really good WrestleMania. One of the strongest in at least a few years, certainly. And, you know, I have said that as long as they put on good matches, I'll be happy. And, you know, they put on good matches. I'm happy with it.
Yeah. WrestleMania in a whole, I've got to say it's probably one of the best I've seen in a long time. I mean, look, in terms of WrestleMania, it's definitely in my top 10.
That's a big one. I'd have to think about that. Maybe we should do a tier list if we ever get around to rewatching all the WrestleManias, just to sort of classify them all.
Do you know what? With the coronavirus thing going on and we're all on lockdown, why not?
Yeah, maybe you'll see some videos of us talking about some old WrestleManias. I mean, definitely there are some good ones in there and some bad ones.
WrestleMania 1 being one of the bad ones.
We actually did rewatch that recently.
We did. Just out of boredom, we put that one on for like shits and giggles of it. And
wow.
I mean, it's amazing looking back at it when you see all that WrestleMania has become and how big it is. It's surprising to see that WrestleMania 1 is the one that led to it. Yeah. Because if you tried to do that now in this day and age, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have seen another WrestleMania.
It was a different climate back then in the 80s. So, yeah. Might see some special WrestleMania sort of recaps of the old school stuff. That'd be very fun.
Possibly even some older WWE stuff, not just WrestleMania. Just depends how we feel during this whole lockdown situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's not much to do but watch wrestling and talk about wrestling and do other. And like, what do? You watch stuff, maybe play some stuff, and hang out. You can't exactly go out and enjoy yourself. So stay safe. Stay indoors. Thank you for listening. I've been Hal.
I've been Chaz.
Oh, he's not here. We shall see you next time.